Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Tracilyn, also known as VCat. At the beginning of this video, I'm at the first house in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, where I started to transition my life to doing what the rest of the world was insisting that I do, which is have a regular job, whatever regular is, into following my true heart's desire and passion in life. Music as a career. At the present moment, I'm in a mountainside just above Lickdale, heading north, where for many years I told you I was born and raised, shared a lot of time up here deer spotting, driving muscle cars when I was a child growing up. Later years, I started having a lot of parties. In fact, when we used to hang in on the circuit with our friends in the muscle cars, we would always somehow come up with finances, get some beer, whatever people wanted to drink and do. We would bring our muscle cars deep into the woods here off a pathway. Right here. We would ignite an amazing bonfire. Someone would always crank on their car stereo, so we take turns. Whose stereo are we going to use? We don't want to drain anybody's battery. You can't tell you how many times it was a good thing that we had jumper cables with. You know what jumper cables are? Because we'd be draining our batteries all night long until the sun rose, listening to our favorite bands. There were many times during these parties that I would wander off into the darkness, sit to be by myself. A lot of in-depth thinking. Knowing that in my heart, somehow, some way, is a healthier lifestyle for myself. Struggling with everything I'd been through my life at that time, up to that time. And somebody within the group, whoever it was, somebody closest to me at the time, would end up asking questions as to where I was, and they would wander down and sit and talk. I can't tell you how many times privately I would cry to my friends without telling them the full details of what a lot of those struggles were. As I got older, I would come out here by myself. Times that I had my dad's van, times that I had other muscle cars. A period of time when Billy Ray Cyrus was really popular in my life. I'd come out here alone, and I would lay out a blanket and I would sunbathe for hours, just listening to the music, feeling the sun on my body. I guess a few years ago, what have you, they kind of blocked off the roadways to come back here for a lot of different reasons. I haven't really been back here since then, since they blocked off the roads. But let me tell you, just being here, I can feel the energy and reflect back on so many moments. Laughter and tears, craziness, people spying in on me. What is that person doing over there on that blanket? Kind of being interrupted every once in a while. I'm back here today. I'm going to roam around. I didn't want to get too far from where I parked my car, in case it starts to rain. I wanted to be somewhere where I felt peaceful, away from all the distractions, the city noise, whatever it is. Because I shared so much of my life story up until this time, I don't want to keep repeating everything, but I want to give a brush up to the time that I lived there. We're going to say Lehman Street, okay? Because that was the main street that our house was on in Lebanon. because I explained a lot of it up to this time, for anybody who's interested and you want to learn more of it, then please, I will ask you or invite you to watch some of the other videos. I was born and raised in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. The first home that we lived in was a trailer in Ono, Pennsylvania. Though hard to believe, I remember, whether it was the exact day, the first day that I walked into the house, or sometime before I was 3, I was still an infant, so I know I wasn't walking around. My mother was carrying me. I heard the doors jingle, the keys jingle. My dad, what I believe my dad opened up the door. I was definitely in my mother's arms. And in our living room, I saw green lights flickering. I heard music. I believed in my heart. That was an Eagles song called Take It Easy. From that moment that I saw those lights flickering and heard that noise, I knew that that was my strongest attraction, period, up to that point. And from that day, that I reflect back on and discuss with others who laugh at me, which is okay. I knew that that was the start of it all. Eventually we started watching programs like Hee Haw, Cher, Sonny and Cher, and just all kinds of television programs, even like the Dukes of Hazzard, how it starts off with an intro song, a theme song for the television series or in movies throughout my life. When I got into living in home 2 in Jonestown, I lived beside my uncle. My uncle was a bass singer. I went to a lot of these different events with my uncle and my family to see my uncle sing. He reminded me a lot of the guy from Sha Na Na, Bowser. You know, I'm kind of relating this back and forth. Because Bowser was the bass singer, my uncle was a bass singer. My mother listened to what was called 45s, vinyl albums. And at that time, that was the main source of entertainment. My mom loved to play her 45s and sing and dance around the house with her children. Always had the radio on, always listening to 45s all day long. And occasionally we would watch some television. As I grew up, of course, I got introduced, just like anyone else, to various musics through a lot of relationships that I was in. A lot of the gospel music and stuff was either through my mother, through my grandparents, or of course my uncle, who I listened to his albums often throughout my life. And country music, of course my mom always had a passion for it, my grandfather had a passion for it, because from what I remember, the older generation didn't care much for any kind of disco or rock and roll music, but they were okay to listen to gospel and country. For some reason, I didn't really care for country when I was little growing up, and I'll tell you why. Because it's the music that my mother used to listen to over and over again and cry. So I don't want to listen to anything for many years that had that kind of power or kind of effect on somebody that I admired and looked up to. I didn't want to see my mother crying all the time. I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together, understanding that it was a lot of her thoughts and not learning how to make amends of a lot of the things that were going on in her life, her personal life. As I moved into the city, you know, by that time it's already disco, country, all the different genres that were going on the radio at that time. When I got to move into the city, I got introduced to more of a heavy metal or a rock and roll. And I remember, I don't know exactly who it was, but it was a combination of my grandparents' belief, the different older generations' belief, from going to the churches and stuff. It made me scared, terrified to listen to a lot of the music. Bands like AC/DC, I mean, they had things covering their eyes on some of their albums, or one of their albums. Anything that looked kind of gruesome, like a horror movie kind of image of the artist, I was terrified to listen to that album. Even Kiss. You know, Detroit Rock City. I talk about that. By the time I was 3 years old, before we moved out of Home One, I was already starting to dance with my mother. Even my little legs, just kind of bouncing around. Chasing each other around the trailer. I used to love when she chased me. And sometimes she let me chase her. So we're kind of entertaining each other all day long. You know, I wanted to keep her spirits up. At that time, I don't really remember too much pain in her. That started later years, which I talk about in other videos. But by the time I was living in Home 2, I definitely know I was introduced to Elvis Presley through our television set. And there was something about that the instant that I saw that, I had to start imitating it. Because of people like John Denver, Elvis Presley, and a lot of other movie stars, other musicians that I was seeing on the television set, whether it was through Hee Haw. I was drawn to the desire to play guitar. I had a live-in nanny that played guitar. She reminded me a lot for some reason, not her, but because she had an acoustic guitar. I'm relating this to John Denver. John Denver were the albums that we listened to a lot in our family. You know, I was raised with John Denver, especially at Christmas time. Christmas time was Barbra Streisand and Elvis Presley and John Denver and whoever was popular at that time. My imagination ignited there. And whether I was looking to escape my life at that time or not, I definitely was at that age where I wanted to imitate whatever I was seeing that I was attracted to. Whether it was a woman or a man, whatever I saw, I was imitating. And we have that in ourselves. We want to imitate other things that bring us joy and laughter. As a family, we started doing things like that together, musically. Pretending to be like in Greece. You know, we'd all get together. I'm sure I couldn't imitate anything now from there. But we used to get together, and this is what we did as a family. You know, I lived near my cousins. They were right beside us. So we would do these things together as a family. When we would go deer spotting out here, we were always listening to 8-tracks was really big at that time. All kinds of music, primarily disco in the 70s. I can just go through a whole collection of amazing songs that we sang together in the car the whole time we're cruising around the mountaintop. We came up here every Friday, every Saturday sometimes, for many, many years. Whenever we would go to church service with my grandma, it was a different style of music, you know. Usually my uncle, you know, his gospel quartets, or my grandfather, who was also in them. We listened to a lot of Christian contemporary going up there. Very seldom anything else with my grandma. My grandma usually had a stereo on in her house. My grandmother played piano, played the organ, played accordion. If you ever saw one of those, Steve or Urkel. Every time I saw that, it reminded me, it took me back in my memory to my grandma. And when I'd see my grandmother and my mother together playing the accordion, let me tell you something. Roll Out the Barrel, I'm telling you, just all kinds of crazy songs that would just bring so much joy into my heart. I would sit there, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to make music. I always knew since I was just a baby that I want to make those sounds. In Home 2 with her nanny, that was the first time I really got to touch an instrument outside of what my grandmother and stuff was doing. I was very drawn. Why not the piano? Why not the accordion? Why not the organ? It made funny sounds, you know. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff with this. For me, it was the acoustic guitar. That's what made my mouth drop. I shared stories about how I would get caught pulling it out from under her bed when I knew I wasn't supposed to, because I wanted so bad to pick it up and try to play it. Just to touch it. Just to touch it. You ever feel that way? You just want to touch it, that's all. When we moved into the city, of course, still musical movies were pretty big. I can't think of them all right now, but Grease was a really big one in our lives. And as a whole neighborhood now, we're kind of going through this together, trying to imitate what we're seeing on television together. And let me tell you, it was quite funny. I wish we had videotapes of this stuff from back then. You know, and off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. A Star is Born was really big. That impacted my life tremendously. I think I was sharing in other videos that Chris Christopherson reminded me a lot of my father, and Barbra Streisand reminded me a lot of my mother. You know, I was always saddened by the car accident at the end of that movie. The last song that she sings, just still to this day, you know, I can connect with it somehow, some way. As we continued on in that neighborhood, I started having a lot more friends who had music as a passion. I can't really remember if that was during the time. I usually say 7 or 8 is when I got my own guitar. It was very well recognized that Tracilyn wants to play guitar. That's all she wants to do. She talks about it all the time, pointing things out on the television. I want to do that. I want to do that. Can I tell you, I'll never forget when my dad got me my first acoustic guitar. I don't remember right now if it was when I was 7 or 8, but I'm almost sure. I was at the home one, different trailer, in a rocking chair. I think I shared this story too. I remember the day that he brought it out to me. It wasn't wrapped in wrapping paper. And I was in awe. I could not believe this. That this to me was the greatest gift ever in my whole life up to that point. And I'll never forget when he said, well, don't just look at it, play your dad something. And I was speechless. I don't know how to play it. Nobody taught me that yet. I don't know what to do, so I just kind of stared at it, you know? Just stared at it, and I kind of felt bad because I couldn't do anything for him. So I just kind of hit the strings. Well, he got me guitar lessons from a guy down at a music store that used to be there, at least in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, called Marty's Music Store. And this guy was amazingly talented. He reminded me of John Denver. And why is that? I don't know. But he looked a lot more like John Denver than my nanny. Can I tell you that? He even had glasses, I think. And he used to sit beside me in a chair, and I'd come in and sit with him on a chair. He had music stands. And by then it was just notes. So you just start off by hitting just one note, and you try to sing these songs. Right now I don't have the music books or anything in my head, but it was a lot of the children's songs from, you know, years ago that were traditional songs. So I was trying to learn notes, and meanwhile I'm trying to also learn how to read music when doing it. Or anybody who ever read music versus looking at the numbers, for most of us, not everybody, but for most of us it's easier to look at the tablature, I think it's called. For me it was numbers. Numbers, looking back now throughout my life, numbers I was always drawn to for some reason. And you'll find out even in my spiritual walk nowadays. So I had a problem because now I have to learn a whole new language. Okay? I have to know what each note means. And I have to get familiar. I have to learn about the guitar, where each note is. That was very challenging for me. I don't want to say I had a learning disability, but can I say I learned differently than most people? So because over a period of time, I started realizing, I started feeling pretty bad about myself. Can I say that? I started feeling really bad, very negative. You know, I had another friend that I connected with at that time who was going to the same teacher. And can I tell you, this guy was phenomenal. If I'm not mistaken, I heard my friend play by the time I was in first grade. He sat up on a chair. It's coming back to me now. He sat up in a chair. I remember his name and everything. And he played in front of the whole class. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to do that. But the problem is I can't learn what I'm being taught. And I would practice and practice and practice and practice, and I'm trying to know what each note means. It's not working. So I don't know how many years I've done this, not too long. And I always felt bad because my dad wanted to see that there was growth, that there was improvement, and it wasn't happening for me. So I can't tell you how many times I would take that guitar and other guitars I got and pack them away, either put them under the bed or put them in the closet. I didn't even want to see it. But I still wanted to. But because I couldn't learn it as fast as other friends that I saw, I felt that, you know what, this isn't for me. I can't do it. It wasn't an interest to me to keep on struggling with it. Later on in life, of course, I'm still being introduced to other bands now. Kiss and Willie Nelson was really big for me in Union Alley. Later on in life, when I was starting to hear all this music throughout my life, being introduced to all these different bands, can I be honest with you? There was something still inside me that said, I want to do it, even though I can't. I really, the one thing in the world that if I could do it, I want to be a guitar player. I want to be a phenomenal guitar player. So again, when I'm 15 years old, finally, after the history of all this music, my sister buys me an electric guitar. She went into the military. I told you our family was kind of we were kind of living in poverty. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of finances and resources or connections to be able to get this kind of stuff. So my sister, when she came back, whether it was from boot camp or what have you, there was a season of time she was gone, she had some finances, she wanted to get everybody something special for Christmas. Everybody knew that I wanted to play guitar really bad. So she got me this electric guitar. Now meanwhile, understand, up until this point, I got to be about 13 to 15 by the time she actually gets me this. Understand that up until that point, I was still trying. But I'm not going to lessons anymore, but I would pull out the same book and keep stumbling with this. Why can I not know these notes? What is wrong with me? Why can't I go faster? Why can't I learn what a rest is? Why can't I know what a one beat is? Because now I'm learning this in school too. Okay? I was sharing stories about when I was in elementary school, and a teacher pointed out that I had one of the most beautiful voices in that classroom. She said that in front of everybody. You can't imagine how powerful that was with all my other struggles. Me sing? I want to play guitar. I don't want to sing. You know, I can't sing. I had my opportunities to sing. I gotta be honest, I still want to rock and roll. I want to play music like John Denver and everybody else. And I'm hearing all this music throughout my life. I know that's what I want to do. So there'd be seasons I'd pull out my acoustic guitar, like I said, and I'd try with those notes. Then I started trying to get into some of the bar chords that my teacher was teaching me at the very last sessions the very last lessons that he gave to me. Then I actually started with one chord, since I could finally figure out how to play an E chord. I started writing one-chord songs. You know? That time, John Cougar was a huge inspiration to me. And when I heard his album, I think it's American Fool, but I could be wrong. But that triggered something with Weakest Moments. I want to be able to play like that. Whatever it takes, I can't. There's nothing else in life. Understand. I'm observing everyone else, taking all these different classes. I'm learning all these things. Can I tell you that even English, I was horrible at. Math I was very good at, and in the beginning years my handwriting was outstanding. That was the first time I ever remember anybody complimenting me outside of my voice, that I was like, wow, I might be able to do something good here. Was in first grade when my teacher told me that my handwriting was outstanding. Of course, it changed a lot throughout the years. Got very sloppy. So though I'm not taking lessons, I'm still reflecting back to my teacher's instructions, you know, the things that he was teaching me. And I'm still not I'm getting better, but it's not there yet. I gotta be completely honest. So when my sister gets me this electric guitar, of course, I don't know if she initiated it or if my mother somehow did, if I kept bugging my mother. But somehow I found out that there was this fantastic guitar player at another place. I can't think of the name of the place, which was right up the road from there. It was a music store that was owned by a musician. And this musician, who was a guitar player, a phenomenal guitar player, he was in a band that my friend who co-wrote a song with me and started playing in a band with me in junior high school years was in a band with his dad. And can I tell you something? His dad's band, when I walked in to hear them in the basement, was playing Hurt So Good. And can I tell you that it never hit in my head up until that point that I remember that I never saw somebody else playing it together with other people in a whole band playing somebody else's song that was on the radio or on MTV at that time. Never saw it up to that point that I remember. Because remember, I see my uncle that are doing gospel music and stuff like that, so I saw live bands. But that's when it really registered to me. Hurt So Good. I'm like, you got to be kidding. I want to play Hurt So Good. So I actually had this gentleman teach me his way of going about playing the intro to Hurt So Good. And I actually picked it up. He wasn't teaching me out of a book. He was showing me and working with me. When I wasn't doing it right, he would move my fingers a little bit. And he would tell me, just keep practicing that. Don't try to do the whole song. Just keep practicing the beginning of that. Come back, I'll give you a couple more lessons. This guy was so cool that eventually I ended up connecting through, listening to other people speak about this other guy that was playing guitar, which I found out went to the same high school that my brother was, maybe later years, past years. And when I got to meet this guy, let me tell you something, he was a rock star. He was one of the first rock stars that I actually got to meet. And I actually got to see his band perform in our local park, which was an amazing place to go to hang out, called Coleman's Park, in a big amphitheater. I was blown away by this whole band. I couldn't believe it. And this guy, I'm telling you, he could play like anybody I ever heard on the radio. AC/DC, Megadeth, Metallica. I mean, he could do anything. Anything. And when I started going there, I felt so proud of myself. These guys took me in. They know how bad I want to play. They would let me play around with some of the other guitars, so I got to learn about Kramer guitars, Jackson guitars. And sometimes, for whatever reason, I wouldn't show up with my guitar, or he'd tell me, leave your guitar at home. You can play one of these, Tracilyn. He would pull off. And can I tell you, there's something to be said about your guitar teacher pulling off a Kramer at that time, or a Jackson guitar, and saying, I'm going to trust you with this when we go down to the studio, the basement, to give you lessons. So I look forward to that. I would ask him sometimes, is it okay if I leave my guitar at home and use one of those? He was great about it, great about it. Now this is like a second-hand shop where people were kind of swapping. There was a lot of that going on when I was little growing up. A lot of people taking their old guitars and exchanging them for different guitars for whatever reason. Because of Megadeth and Metallica, I wanted to play a Flying V guitar. That was the first place I got to play a Flying V guitar. I don't know if you know what that is. Jackson guitars were really big, and I wanted them because my favorite heroes in all the world were on MTV, Headbangers Ball, were playing this stuff. Okay? So was I drawn to these guitars because it was what I really wanted to do? Or was I doing it only because I saw what other people were doing? It's a big difference, isn't it? Because remember, I started out with an acoustic guitar. Nowadays, I'll be honest with you, I love all guitars. All guitars. Always wanted a big guitar collection. It looks like it's starting to rain. I'm gonna have to stop off here. When I was 13, 15 years old taking guitar lessons, that's where we're gonna pick up at. I'm gonna get wet. Whew. Okay, finally the rain has trickled down. It was just a passing by. I apologize for that. I don't know if it's going to rain again, but I don't want to stop. I'm on a roll here. I started telling you about how music came into my life, how I was introduced to it, made that connection pretty much at birth. Once we got into the guitar years, first time I was introduced to a real life physical guitar was with my nanny, and then eventually my dad purchased first guitar. Now, sometime before my father had purchased that guitar for me, and living with my live-in nanny, somehow our household, whether through my brother or my mother brought it along into Lafayette Street from Jonestown or wherever we were going, understand this, that I already started trying to play guitar by the time, before I was even in elementary school. Okay, very drawn to it. Somehow we had a guitar in our household for a very long time, throughout the time that I actually got my own. And that whole time I'm trying And if I remember correctly, Mel Bay had guitar chord book, and I was trying to look at the tablature in that and figure out how to make the different chords, G chord, E chord. For some reason, the E chord was the easiest for me at that time, and that's what I ended up using. Then my dad finds out, you know, this is what I'm really drawn to, it's what I want to do, so he got me my own. I got my first lessons at Marty's music store, but with this teacher, he wanted to teach me out of the book how to read music and play. Okay, that was his standard teaching method. It wasn't working for me. No matter what I tried, this was not working. Eventually I got introduced to other musicians. I kept listening to music, and my sister got me my first electric guitar. I really don't remember how old I was when I got this. Understand, I already wrote my first guitar, or my first song, by the time I was like 10 or 11. So I'm kind of bouncing all over the place as quickly as I can to get caught up to when I am at the age of 12, 13, you know, maybe it was 11, but 12 or 13 sticks in my head. And now I'm starting to get lessons. I'm bugging my mother. I got an electric guitar. I didn't even have an amplifier at that time. I don't know what I was using to play, if we were plugging in the stereo somehow. Some of the motor stereos had a mic input that you could plug in, and we were playing it through the stereo system. Did not sound healthy at all. Didn't have distortion and all the different sound effects. I got to meet this guitar instructor at another guitar store. So now I'm going to this guitar store where there's a whole bunch of guitars hanging on the walls, a lot of used equipment. Amazing, amazing guitar. Every guitar that I saw on MTV was hanging in that room. So I had the opportunity, because they knew how passionate I was about it, and with everybody else. You know, you could take the guitars down, plug them into the amplifiers that they had, and play whatever it was, your favorite guitar. Because my instructor was so nice, I didn't have to bring my guitar. He knew I was riding bike or walking a great distance to come there and get these lessons. He knew my family was on a tight budget, so it was very affordable. Instead of giving me a half-hour rate, you know, I would pay for the half hour, but there'd be times I'd be with him for an hour, hour and a half. He would make time for me, okay? Because he knew I was having a lot of struggles with this. I told him right up front my history of when I first took lessons, which was only for a year or two. Okay, I realized that it wasn't working for me, so I explained to him about all this, and he said, okay, I can teach you wherever you want to start off. Do you want to learn chords? Do you want to learn power chords? Do you want to play leads? And of course, because at that time, all the rockers on TV were playing leads, I wanted to learn how to play leads. He would let me play the other guitars. It was always wonderful. He'd ask me, which guitar do you want to play today? Pick one up. We'd go down in the basement, and there he would spend about an hour, hour and a half with me, which was amazing. It's amazing when people reach out and do that for you. He was that passionate about it that it wasn't the money that he wanted. He wanted to help other people to develop their abilities. It's very unfortunate for me, because what I saw on television, I wanted to be able to do, okay? So much so that I was heavily introduced to playing lead guitar. And I wanted to play it as fast as some of the greats. I wanted to play like Agnes Young with only one hand, you know, on the fretboard, and lift my other arm up and be cool amongst my friends. Kramer was really big in the day. So when he used to play the sky blue Kramer guitar that had sparkles in it and stuff, he always favored to use that guitar. I got to learn a lot about the electronics in it. Some would have certain volume buttons on it. They would have different ways to play different pickups on it. You know, I mean, now I'm starting to get into the technicality of how guitars work and how you can create different sounds with not the effects, but with the guitar itself. Some of them had whammy bars, you know, if that's what you call them. That's what I called them, a whammy bar. And some of them had the pegs on top going down, and some of them had the pegs on the bottom, kind of curving up like a reverse neck, I always called it a reverse neck. I want to play the reverse neck. Where I got that from, I'm sure it's from somebody from the 80s on television. Because of Lita Ford, I wanted to play a BC Rich. Because of Richie Sambora and I think Mick Mars, I wanted to play Kramer guitars, if I'm not mistaken. Jackson, Megadeth, Metallica, all of it was available there for me. When a Flying V came in, I had the first opportunity in my whole life to play a Flying V. And I swore up and down, someday I'm going to own a Flying V guitar. This guy has long, blonde, beautiful hair. He is a true rocker, in and out. And for many years throughout my life, he continued to play. I always wanted to tell him how much our relationship meant to me. You know, these guys that were investing a great deal of time in my life. Very non-judgmental. He was all about the music. So there I got to learn patterns. For anybody who plays guitar, you know you have scales. And this started to make sense to me. Patterns, scales. I'm not looking at notes anymore, I'm looking at tablature with numbers. And he would usually write out exercises, how to use those patterns, how to utilize those scales. So I learned a lot with this. And at that time, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, Guitar World, these magazines were coming out and they had remarkable lessons in these books. And because I couldn't afford to go out into these other music stores and purchase all my favorite bands' albums made for guitar, I got these magazines. And I was always excited when my favorite recording artist would have the sheet music in these with the numbers. And thank goodness for that. I always wondered, how do they transpose all of this? You know, that was always a mystery to me. But I was very grateful to have these magazines, and that's what he encouraged me to do. This is where I was also introduced to Joe Satriani. This gentleman, from what I remember, he really loved him and Yngwie Malmsteen. And he strongly suggested that I get, you know, certain books that we could study the way that they did the craft of soloing, you know, playing their guitar. So I would go to these other stores, I'd bug my mother, or somehow I'd come up with the money. Maybe in later years, of course, I started working odd jobs, mowing grass and stuff, trying to raise money so I could buy these guitar books, magazines. So I had something to go in there, and he would teach me out of that, rather than taking, like the other teacher, which had a lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and we would purchase all these books to learn. Basically, it was going to take a long time to get up to the level I wanted to get at, where this guy kind of jumped in. Anywhere you want to go with your music, let me know. During these years, which might have been a little bit later on when I was 15, so that's why I'm kind of wavering with this, about glam bands was a big thing for me. And the reason why glam bands were a big thing for me is because, I'll be honest with you, I've already been wearing women's clothes behind closed doors. These guys are wearing women's clothing in public, rocking and rolling. And people were going crazy over it, guys and girls. So that's the reason why I could wear my long hair, was a little more acceptable, and women's clothes out in public. So though I didn't wear women's clothes in public because I was still scared of getting humiliated and things, it opened up doors tremendously. I don't know if they're aware of it, but it opened up not just for me, for the world at large. Only I wasn't tough. So I kind of was hiding behind the image that they presented, which was a tough man image. Now I'm trying to be a tough teenager, because I play guitar, I have long hair, and I can dress how I want to dress now, finally. Thank you. So we studied a lot of Yngwie Malmsteen. There was a book called Flying Fingers. I don't know who that was geared around, but there was all kinds of finger exercises. And he kept assuring me that if I keep practicing these, starting off slow. Hold on, there's somebody here. Look at this scene. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, there is a side of me that loves the big cities, loves the beaches, but I'll tell you what, there's nothing more beautiful than being anywhere in nature. Alright, I don't want to keep trying to catch up. Sometimes, I told you, I get very distracted. and people are around making other noises, I really want to focus on this because I really, to be honest with you, I just want to get it out of my system and kind of move on. That's my hope. I was talking about my guitar teacher when something tells me I was pretty close to 15 by the time I started taking lessons. Understand that all the way up to this point, I'm fiddling around with the guitar ever since Jonestown, before I was in elementary school. Inspired by many people, including the people on the television and on the radio. This guitar teacher was absolutely outstanding. And before I get interrupted again, I want to get past this. So I'm going to cut it very short and just say, this is where I started to learn how to play lead guitar, not through music, reading music, but through different tablatures that he would actually handwrite, and he would give me different exercises. And he would teach me how to just start slowly and work my way faster. I was always intimidated because he could play like some of the most amazing people I've ever heard in my life up to that point. Okay, absolutely he could. And I couldn't keep up even with his lessons in my head because I was still working on the first few lessons by the time he already gave me maybe 2 or 3 weeks lessons. So I kept finding myself, I'm lagging behind. And I heard other people that were going there and they were picking it up very fast. Did you ever feel that way? I'm sorry if you do. But some of us learn a little bit slower than others. That's all. I realized because my mother was paying for these lessons and we were on a tight budget that it would be in my best interest for her as well, that I kind of refrained from it. I'm assuming just like the first one, I went for about a year and a half. I was assuming by this point that I was probably only getting lessons from him for about a year and a half, as well as the first gentleman that I was going to. It broke my heart, and I think he was kind of disappointed. In fact, so much that I do remember, he told me he would work with me as far as the cost of the lessons that he was providing. He knew how much I wanted to play the guitar. And he understood that everybody was learned at a different pace. That was hard for me to walk away because I felt like a quitter. Did you ever feel that way? I'm sorry if you do. I felt like a quitter. I quit the first time because I just wasn't getting it, and I gotta be honest, I wasn't interested in learning a lot of what he was teaching. This guy, I wanted to play just like him. I'm just not learning. It's not fair to my mother. That's the way I felt. So, of course, moved on. But it didn't go without me taking this book that I made up of all his lessons that he provided for me. And I continued to practice. Did I say practice? I practiced. Every night, every day. That's all I did. I explained how my friends actually came to my bedroom window. If I lived on the second floor, they would kind of throw things up, added little pebbles, or they would knock on the first floor window where I lived. I would find myself more so than not unplugging the guitar and dancing around on my bed to all the posters. Anybody from the 80s, they might still do this now, but there used to be really hip magazines in the day that the rock and rollers had different photos in. They would kind of give like different stories that they would have of making of albums or of their life. It was always very inspirational. I didn't read the articles as much as I did ripping the pictures out of the magazines and decorating my room with them. I had everyone you can imagine from the 80s up there at that time. New friends coming into my life that I was meeting, I liked glamour music a lot. That was my big passion. And I explained that it was mainly because, it gave me an opportunity to wear a little bit of makeup, longer hair. The clothing that I wore, though it was still guys' clothing in the open, it was still very femme clothing, a very femme presentation. I used to dance around my bedroom for hours. Since I couldn't play guitar like I wanted to, I pretended to play guitar like I wanted to. And I'd pop in music. I remember Kiss was a big one that I would imitate, you know? Wanted to be like Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley. Even Agnes Young, I started listening, allowing myself to listen to more and more of this music. Twisted Sister. At some point, I don't know what clicked inside my head. Maybe it was all that pretending while I was listening to the music, but I actually occasionally would recognize I'm hitting some notes that sound very close to what is being heard through my stereo system. I'll never forget when I pulled out a chair, a kitchen chair. I asked my mom, can I take a kitchen chair to my bedroom? And I sat in front of the stereo and I would listen to just a section of it doing the solo. And I would stop and I'd try to find the note on my guitar. At that time I wasn't fully aware that they have different tunings for guitars. So this is kind of getting confusing to me. But I'm starting to figure out that if I listen close, I might be able to mimic at least close. Not really. What I thought sounded like what I was hearing. Oh, it was awful. Awful experience. Anybody that heard it would tell you straight up, she had no idea what she was doing when she was trying to imitate. It was more in my head than it was really sounding. I struggled with this for a long time. One of the songs that I remember specifically doing that with was Lick It Up by Kiss and Heaven's on Fire. The part where he goes dun 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 dun, and he's going oh, oh, oh dun 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 dun. I kept trying to do that. Cold Gin. Cold Gin. I remember working on Cold Gin by Kiss. Parts of Detroit Rock City, the solo. And I couldn't figure out, was it really two guitar players doing that? Or was only one doing it? And it sounded so magical. You know, the harmony. I didn't understand all this stuff. I'm trying very desperately to figure it out because I want to get on a stage and start rocking and rolling and make my life happen. I want to make friends, you know? I want to make friends and get stopped picking on all the time because before that, before I started taking those lessons, remember I learned how to play the E chord. I wrote my sister's song and now I had an electric guitar. This is even before I got the second lessons. And let me tell you something, I already shared this story. I was in junior high school, stood in front of the whole school playing two Cinderella songs that I guarantee you did not sound like Cinderella. And the song I wrote. Okay. And I'll never forget what I felt like when the guys who were bullying me around put their arm around me. I remember flinching. Did you ever do that? Get beat up a lot or pushed into locker rooms or into lockers, and then all of a sudden that same guy comes up and puts his arm around you. You kind of flinch back. You don't know what to expect. You're kind of looking around as his friends. Is this a sneak attack? Sneak attack is what it felt like. I remembered what I felt like. I remember the girls putting on the makeup and stuff like that. That was a highlight of my life, you know. Still to this day, it's a highlight of my life. So this was the same thing. I would get so frustrated because I couldn't play the way that I wanted to play. And at that time I didn't know how to find my own playing style or how to accept it, which I'm learning later in life is very important. I'm still wanting to play my guitar like Agnes Young with one hand. How is he doing that? So I would watch MTV. And at that time we had VCRs, so I would record, especially live concerts, and I would stop it. Did you ever do that if you play guitar or any instrument? You stop it. I remember doing that to Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. I remember stopping that video on my VCR and trying to imitate what I was seeing. And then I started thinking, maybe they're not really playing the guitars to the music. Maybe it's not synchronized. I didn't recognize this, but maybe they're not really playing that. And then I started questioning whether or not these guys really knew what they were doing. Did they really play their instruments? What is going on? Because then at that time, let's face it, we heard of Milli Vanilli. And I loved Milli Vanilli, by the way, a lot. whoever created them songs that were really popular, they touched my heart, the depths of my heart. So you can imagine how I felt when I found out that they were lip syncing. And I guess, I'm assuming that it wasn't the guys who were actually in the front, you know, doing the videos and stuff. So I'm kind of questioning now. I got a lot of questions. Is what I see on television real? You know, are these guys in a band, are they really doing the real deal? You know? So that's why I guess maybe it started. I want to go see them, and I would even be questioning at the concerts. Are they really playing? Are you guys really playing, or are you faking? You know, are you rocking and rolling like I was on my bed? I would often take my guitar and put it in the closet. And my friends who were closest to me at the time would say, "Why are you doing that? You know that's what you want to do. Play." No, I don't want to play anymore. Do you ever feel like that? It's just not working. I don't have what it takes. But I'll tell you what, it didn't go without disturbance in my mind. That's all I thought about. I would daydream about it all the time. Every time I saw the guys, I wanted to be like them, you know? And when I was in school, that's all I thought about. I would think about names of the bands, or I would kind of paint in my head. I would sit back and daydream, looking at these pictures. Someday I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing that. I love live recordings so much. To me, I recognize that studio energy, if you will, and the energy of a live performance is very much different. And therefore, I got very critical, you know? You're listening. These guys sound like their album. Don't sound like their album to me. In fact, when I hear them live, it sounds like they're probably tuned down a half step or a whole step. See, I could figure stuff like that out. There was something built in me that would recognize these things. And I dug deeper and deeper and deeper, so much that I wanted to go behind stage and ask these guys, "What are you doing? This doesn't sound like the studio album." Some of them. I won't say who. And I remember, okay, going to my first concert, I talked about that. John Cougar. Now we're going back. I'm bouncing around here, okay, until I get caught up to my music career. John Cougar was outstanding. Reached into my heart through my dad's stereo, Americans Full. Now I go to the Scarecrow tour. And if I remember, he jumped into the crowd. From what I remember, I don't know if he did or not, but I think he did. And I remember standing up. That's what got me to stand up. Where did he go? I can't believe he just did that. All this stuff is kind of sticking in my head. Years and years of longing to want to do this and be like these other people. I want to jump into a crowd of people and be tossed around. Looks like it'd be fun. Maybe not. Because I found out in later years that some people get hurt very much at concerts like that. When they do things like that. But anybody who knows me knows right around this time, years bouncing around again. I'll never forget when my friend that I was closest to at that time in London Village had another friend. We somehow got together because we saw You Give Love a Bad Name on the television set. And I didn't care at any cost. If I had to play hooky from school, whatever it's going to take, we got to get rock and roll tickets to go see Bon Jovi. I got made fun of a lot by that, by the way, but not by my closest friends. He was a huge Bon Jovi fan, but he's just like, keep it down, keep it down. And he listened to Ozzy, and he listened to Wasp, and a whole lot of other tougher bands, I guess you could say. I don't mean that they're tougher, but I'm stumbling here. Help me out. You know what I mean. Who wants to go see a glam band when you can go see something that's a little heavier, you know? Thrashier, you know? We got together, I skipped school, and I remember the cost of the ticket was $17.50. It's a lot different to see Bon Jovi nowadays, isn't it? Or any band. Where can you go see a band for $17.50? That was back in the 80s. Amazing, amazing the difference. Standing in line to get these tickets, that alone was an amazing experience because it's a very long line and people stayed there all night long in tents. You heard all kinds of crazy stories, and now you're not the only one who loves Bon Jovi with your friend. All of these people love Bon Jovi. That's why we're here. We're here to see Bon Jovi. And you're looking for him. Is he going to come? Is he going to be here? Is he handing out tickets? You want to get to meet this guy, right? Well, it wasn't the case. I'm learning. Is this the case? That year, Night Songs was really popular by Cinderella. So I'm looking around. I'm literally thinking in my head, these guys got to be around here somewhere. This is too big of an event for them not to be. I got to see them inside the arena. And I tell you, we didn't sit because our seats were kind of in the back. You know, we got there late. Everybody was there already a day or 2 days in advance. So we were walking. At that time, they used to let you walk up close in the walkways. Can stand by the rail until security came. He'd ask you to kind of shush it very nicely because you guys kind of shush it along. And I'll never forget standing there and watching Tom Kiefer and Cinderella. Night Songs. Just the whole stage presence. Very purplish, if I remember. Purplish. And I couldn't believe it. Let me tell you something. I will tell you this right now. At that time, Cinderella sounded identical to me. Like my Night Sounds, like my Night Songs. Is it Night Songs? Album. You know, and I wanted to hear all the popular songs that were on television. I wanted to hear them all. And they played a majority of them, if I'm not mistaken, all the hit songs that were popular for them at that time. I'm blown away by this. These guys sound exactly... Are they really singing? Are they really playing? I couldn't get close enough to see. And I want to get down there. I wanted to jump up on stage and see, are you guys really playing? Then when Bon Jovi came out, I was blown away. I was blown away because I loved Richie Sambora, I loved John. I forget the exact outfit that he had on, but I was hoping it was going to be like whatever he wore for You Give Love a Bad Name. I don't remember what they were wearing. But I do remember seeing the guitars that you saw on television. I mean, you got to understand, you're watching this on television every day, over and over again. How many times do they play these songs? This is the greatest moment of my life. Very disappointed that I couldn't get closer. And one thing that got me started on with John, when he was singing, or the guys were singing, there were certain areas of the song that, unlike where Cinderella sounded, listen, and I hope this doesn't upset anybody, Cinderella seemed to be, every single note sounded identical to my ears. When Bon Jovi came out, can I tell you that sometimes what appeared to be that he should have went high according to the album, he kind of took it a different direction. Maybe a little bit lower. It sounded different to me. Honestly, I heard some people throughout going to a lot of concerts in a situation like this, where they would kind of be disappointed because they wanted it to sound exactly like the album. But can I tell you, Tracilyn didn't. Still to this day, she doesn't. And that's the reason that started that. I don't remember back to the John Cougar concert. I don't remember. I wasn't looking for these things at that time. Understand, I'm not looking for that at that time. At this time, for some reason, I was comparing. Milli Vanilli kind of stuck in my head. Are these people on MTV really singing, or are they really playing? Is Tom Kiefer really playing? Is that the album playing? I don't know. I'm a child. I'm a teenager, barely. What's going on here? And I gotta admit, me and my friends, we talk about it for a long time. And I heard different people with different perspectives. But that, can I say, turned me on. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You know? One of the reasons why, and I have disputes with different guys who like different bands, because you have Kiss fans, they love Kiss. They love Ozzy, they love Ozzy. They're devoted, dedicated. Led Zeppelin, there was a lot of people who loved Led Zeppelin. Can I be honest with you? I love all music. But for some reason, I was the glam bands, and Bon Jovi was my thing. So check this out. My return defense was, well, at least Bon Jovi really sings in concert. Even if he doesn't sound exactly like his album, at least he sings. That's the way I didn't know. I was defending him. Why am I defending him? I don't know. Because I did, okay? Because I didn't want nobody to knock down my band. And, that was a highlight of my life, so much that in later years, I saw him in the New Jersey tour. By this time, I'm with my first girlfriend, And it's the one that really introduced me to a lot of the other bands that I started to like. And we have Bon Jovi in common with each other. The New Jersey album was outstanding. Lay Your Hands on Me was, I wanted to see that performed in concert. Exactly like the video. No mistakes, guys. And you know what? One of the things, I'm going to go back here in time. One of the things that blew my mind away about that specific group is when we were in the arena, John somehow mysteriously came out on these wires. I'm almost positive at this time. This might have been later years. I think I remember him, and he went to a very small stage near the back of the arena. Well, guess what? Guess who ran down there with their friends? We gotta see this. We gotta see this. And he sang Silent Night. And that song, the fact that he took the time and energy to come all the way to the back, to me that was like saying, you know, we're giving you special attention for these songs, or I don't know how many songs it was they sang. Then after he was done, he went back through. And to this day, that moves me. If I were to be a rocker, I would want to reach everybody in the arena, okay? I really would. And that's the reason why, because I know how it touched my heart. I couldn't get up close to the stage. There was no way possible for me at that time that I was creative enough, me and my friends. And we were good at everything, let me tell you, but we weren't good at that. So getting to see that performance was outstanding. Because I reflected back on that, it's very unfortunate that I did not go and see a lot of other bands for a lot of different reasons. But I was really stuck in that mode of, I gotta go to another concert when they come around. And I don't know how many times May came there or whatever, but then when the New Jersey came out, there's a whole other circumstance. It was outside, and I never saw an outside performance. So anyway, I got up close as I could. I'll never forget being that close to see, you know, the guys I watch on television. You understand, I'm going home after seeing this stuff, and now I'm imitating everything. I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to be a rock and roll star. I want to play in an arena on a sound system like that someday. At that arena, I got to see Travis Tritt. And I tell you, when I saw Travis Tritt, it was blown away. I gotta be honest, the whole arena wasn't filled up like the other concerts I saw. I kind of felt bad about that. This was during the day, maybe the Sunday show, I don't remember. But this is also later years. I'm just telling you about some of the concerts I saw. But something that I saw in Travis Tritt was all the energy he had. Oh my goodness, I mean, this guy ran all over the stage and he didn't miss a note. And there was a section of the show where the whole band kind of went, I guess, to get drinks, went on break. But he took the time to sit out there on the stage. If he either sat or he stood, I don't remember, but he played his guitar alone and sang. And I thought, this is very intimate. Caught off guard. And it was a lot of the songs. He only did like partial songs, you know, did a lot of them. But I remember I was close enough that I could see his facial expressions and see how passionate he was with what he was doing. And from that moment I knew that whenever I sing a song, I want to have soul like that. Really, really want to have soul and passion for the songs that I sing. So notice, as I'm watching these shows live, they're really impacting me. Because I just can't believe that these people have come to our local area. They're in Pennsylvania. Might not have time to go through a whole lot of them, but I also saw Skid Row there. You know, I remember seeing Sebastian Bach throwing his hair around. I just thought that was so cool because, much like Cher, Sebastian Bach at that time, to me, had extremely long hair. And I remember at some points he went down, didn't have no shirt on, so I got to see his chest. And his hair appeared to look like it was hitting the stage when he went backwards. I was blown away by this. I want long hair like Sebastian Bach. But I'll never be able to sing like that. I couldn't believe the way that he would sing. I also saw Guns N' Roses there. And can I tell you, it was one of the best shows ever. Out of all the shows that I've seen, it was amazing. Amazing, amazing show. I remember having the opportunity to see Axl Rose's legs. Muscular. That's the way I would describe him. Very muscular. Very passionate. A lot of energy. I remember it seemed to be a lot more aggressive energy than a lot of the other shows I saw. And I was impressed by that. Like he was pouring out his heart. The whole band, they're pouring out their hearts in their performance. And when you watch them, very much like on the television, you know? Very much like the television. And maybe eventually I'll dabble back and forth through a couple of them, trying to brush through. So understand at this time, not only am I watching people on television, I am going to concerts. Doing everything I can to go see people live. As I'm going through life, understand that as I'm searching, I'm looking at the people I admire in life, period. Whether it's television shows, rock and roll stars. I'm listening to everything they're saying all the time. Behind the music, you know, Headbangers Ball, I'll keep on saying that a lot. Pauly Shore was big. Here, hold on. Okay, had to change a battery. We're talking about concerts. And all the questions that are going through my head as I'm imitating the people I'm admiring. Throughout my whole life, because I wasn't playing or my performance wasn't up to snuff, I couldn't play like these other people, I kept taking my guitar and putting it away. Hiding it. I would actually bury it in my closet. It was like haunting me. You know, I want to play you, but you're not helping me here. You're not meeting me halfway. But it never failed. No matter where I was picking up brooms. You know, it was always the guitar, always guitar, always guitar. You know, a lot of times, sometimes when I would be drinking with my mother, she'd say, why don't you go get the guitar, acoustic guitar? Why don't you go get the guitar? Why don't you go get the guitar? Play for your mom, play for your mom. Play for her friends that would come over. And I always had a complex about this. Be honest with you, I started learning right away that people appreciate it more if they can sing along with you. Okay? And they want to hear songs that they're familiar with. Well, let's be honest, I'm here with an older generation, my mother and her friends. They think a lot of negative things about the stuff I'm interested in. In fact, they're telling me that's why I'm having so many issues in life. Not my mother, necessarily. She would always defend me. My mother would always defend me in times like that. So whenever I go get the guitar, now I gotta use my mind. Not only am I trying to learn how to play like, you know, the people I like, but now I gotta kind of dig into a selection of my mother's albums, a lot of country songs. I remember Chris Christopherson's Why Me, Lord was one of them. My mother loved that song so much. Listened to it over and over and over again. A lot of Willie Nelson. My mom loves Willie Nelson, or she did love Willie Nelson. I knew that by the time we lived on Union Alley. So I spent many years playing to my mom, drunk, all of us drinking, having a good time, playing a lot of country songs and gospel songs. Can I be honest with you? I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. Even then, I had a couple songs, 2 or 3, and I wanted to sing my songs. And sometimes I would sneak in like Patty's song. My mom liked that one. People didn't seem to care for it. There's no chorus there, Tracilyn, obviously. It was not designed that way. I just spilled out my heart. It was a letter to my sister in a song, that's all. Later years you'll find out that somebody believed in a lot of the music that I was doing that seemed kind of childish at that time. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that song, to this day I play, and I still want to work on tweaking just a few more things because I hear something in my head with it. And I'd love to do it for my sister. So now I'm learning all these other people's songs. Playing them for my mother. I love my mom a lot. I don't regret any of it. I was the center of attention, which many people that knew me, or still know me, say that was my strive. I always wanted to be the center of attention. But to be honest with you, reflecting back on it, I think that's just kind of built in on me. I like to play and bring joy to other people's lives. I mean, that to me is what it's about. I want to lift their spirits, make them laugh, because my mom cried. She cried a lot on a daily basis. Okay, drinking, listening to her 45s. There'd be times I'd go out there, I have to change the record. It would upset her. I'd change the record. She was always listening to slow songs, whatever was popular. She loved Lionel Richie. You know, Lionel Richie was one of her favorites. Hello Again, Stuck on You, and just it goes on and on and on. But it wasn't anything like dancing on a ceiling, you know, the fun stuff. It always seemed to be the stuff that really reached into your heart. Well, of course, I knew that I don't want to play songs like that. Okay? I want to stay away from it. Rock and roll seemed to be more, you know, maybe noisy for them, but it seemed to distract me from the pain that's going on out in the living room and the kitchen. My mom loved to sit in the dining room at the table and drink and stuff. So I did it. And there'd be times people would ask me to come out on the porch, grab your guitar, grab your guitar. Everybody knew me as a guitar person. So I cannot tell you countless times I would do that, and it always amazed me. But I reflected back on my junior high school year. So I was fully aware that whenever I sat on the porch with my guitar and a beer, I'm going to have friends come around. Somebody's going to start walking down through and listen. This is when I realized that people do a lot of comparing. It's in human behavior. We're kind of comparing each other. Remember, I'm telling you, comparing from their studio album to their live, whether it's on television or in person. I was always more impressed and more convinced that they were really performing if they didn't sound like their studio recording. I love that. To this day, I still do. Whenever somebody would stop by, they would ask me to play different songs. Now they want me to sound like these people. I don't. I don't even want to sing, to be honest with you. My mom usually sings when I play the guitar indoors. I don't want to sing. I sang Patty's song, that was it. That was the only song. A couple other songs that I wrote. The songs I wrote, I would sing. Get it? Listen to this. This is very important that you get this. The songs I wrote, I would sing. I don't want to sing other people's songs because I'm going to be compared, and you're not going to be happy if you're comparing me with these other people. It's just the way it is. If you want me to sound like other people, or people are asking you to, they're never going to be happy. Okay, not unless you nail it. Can you nail it? Sound just like the album? Some people can. I was always impressed by that. So already, I'm doing something I love, trying to escape my life. And now why are people comparing me with these? I mean, look at these guys. They're on television. I'm not. I'm on my front porch. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me in my bedroom and don't go knocking on the window asking me to play a lead solo by Ace Frehley. Okay, don't ask me to do that. Don't ask me. Everybody wanted me to play the intro to Slash. You know, to, what was it? Everybody wants you to hear that. I can't think of the song right now. Sweet child of mine. Sweet child of mine. Okay, everybody wants you to play stuff like that. Everybody wants you to play Smoke on the Water. Everybody wants you to play the beginning to Crazy Train by Ozzy. Everybody wants you to play a Metallica song. I guarantee you, Metallica was far away from where I could even reach. But some of these other groups, it seemed like I could pick some of the stuff up. My guitar teacher knew that I was a big fan of Poison at that time, so kind of taught me how to play the beginning of Talk Dirty to Me. And I remember I stumbled with the slide, and then I couldn't do it. I could do the beginning part, but not that part. But eventually, thank goodness for guitar, for the practicing musician, these songs came out, and I tell you, I'm telling you, there were times I was in my bedroom for 19 hours straight, playing hooky, whatever I had to do, drinking, and trying to perfect these songs. Eventually I did. Took me years, years before I could play a song through, just the rhythm, without messing up. You know, I think any musician will tell you that somewhere along the line and they're playing their music. Maybe not all of them. Maybe not all of them. But me, I am not going to play the whole song without stumbling over my fingers at some point. It's like the rest of the band wants to keep on going and I can't keep up. Well, slow it down a little bit. So another one was, let me see, Motley Crue. Looks at Kill. Looks at Kill. That was really big. Everybody wanted to hear that. So understand, now I'm going in the room, I'm like, instead of playing country music and gospel music for my mother, I can learn these other songs to make friends. And if I can play it really good, they're going to think I'm cool. You ever feel that way? You want to be cool? That was my way of being cool. I can go on and on and on and on about all the different songs, all the songs in the 80s. Whatever was a hit on MTV, hit on the radio, Tracilyn was in her bedroom trying to figure it out. One of the toughest things that I've ever tried to do was mimic sounds. Mimic sounds of the guitar, of other guitar players. Told you I was a big fan of Bon Jovi, so you're going to hear me say that a lot. Okay? I remember You Give Love a Bad Name, working with that. And just the intro, and there's somewhere in the solo, okay, at the very end of the solo, he's going, and I want to learn how to do that part. That's it. I could never learn the whole solo. I want to learn how to do that part. And can I be honest with you? To this day, I cannot play that part. And I never understood because it appeared to me at this time that he's playing it up here at the top of his neck. Some may call it the bottom. I say the top. You know, near fret 1, fret 2. He's playing it. And I would keep on looking in this video. How is he doing that? Just that. I want to learn how to do that. So in the magazine that I was looking at, which I didn't understand at the time, is playing it down at the 7th and the 9th fret, from what I remember. Still to this day. Or 10th or 11th. Okay, somewhere in there. And I'm like, why is it? Now I'm questioning this guitar magazine. I want to play like he does in the video. I don't want to play it the way you're putting it here. How do I play it over there? Like that. Richie, are you really playing that? And you got all these questions in your head. You're trying to figure things out. Okay? I learned in later years. You got the same notes up here as you do down here, you know? Duh. Okay, I'm figuring this stuff out. Okay, there's something in my heart that wants to do it that bad. I'm figuring this stuff out somehow. Lessons weren't working for me. I couldn't keep up mentally with that. Okay? This goes on and on. All these wonderful guitar licks. That was really big, guitar licks. Show me a lick. If you can't play that lick, then you're not a good guitar player. Go back in your room and practice. And I don't have no problem. But then there would be times that I'd finally get enough. I'm never going to be able to do it. Never. And I would bury it in the closet or put it on my bed for a long time. I don't know how long. Maybe sometimes a year. But it didn't go without a lot of suffering. Because that's all I wanted to do. I want to be a guitar player. Okay? So as time progressed, I told you different stories. Like especially when I started hanging around my girlfriend at that time, her family. They were so drawn to it. Kicks was a really big one at that time. That I was dating her. She's walking away and I don't know how to stop her. Walking away. Let me tell you something. That guy has an outstanding voice. I want to sound like Kicks too, you know? My guitar playing. But I'll be honest with you. I don't remember ever learning any Kicks song at all. I couldn't. There's certain bands, even if they were playing similar to a lot of the other bands, no matter what I tried, I could not pick it up. What are they doing there? I'm stumbling over all this. Why can I play something for a minute or two, you know, maybe 30 seconds? Why can I play the intro to Poison you know, but I can't play an intro to any Kick song. I don't know why, and to this day, it's kind of a mystery to me. I hear things differently. And you're going to find out later on in life that I started realizing I hear everything as a whole. Certain tones. So it was hard for me to separate sounds. I can't separate the guitar from the lead guitar, from the rhythm guitar to the bass. I couldn't do that. I'm hearing everything as a whole. Very noisy like that. So I always wondered, could I get a hold of just the track of that, of just the guitar on that? And I guess there was ways to do it, or you could order them or what have you. You know, all kinds of books that were out there. But understand, I'm always on a tight budget here, okay, at this point in my life. Yeah, always through life, just about. So I'm doing the best I can to learn these things. Now I'm getting involved with other relationships, going places. A lot of people who knew me, they were like, bring your guitar along to the parties. You know, once I started driving, bring your guitar along. And it would seem to be the same thing. And I don't want to keep repeating. Bottom line is, people wanted to hear what they were familiar with. There's nothing wrong with that. Only Tracilyn does not feel comfortable doing that. And to be honest with you, I felt comfortable singing my songs, and that's what I wanted to do. I was already at that point, very young age. I want to do my stuff. I'm inspired by these guys, but I think I want to play like them for the total wrong reasons. In fact, looking back, I did. I did want to develop my skills, you know, my craftsmanship, but as well, can I tell you that I wanted to do it to make friends. I wanted to do it, as some people would say, well, Tracilyn, that's not really for the wrong reasons, you know? I was being a people pleaser, is what I got. Bugs at me. Do you see that bug? I wonder if he's a rock and roll bug. Cheerio, cheerio, Tracilyn. So, Randy Rhoads inspired me. Was it D, if I'm not mistaken? One thing I loved about Randy Rhoads now is classical music. Classical. How is he putting that classical music into whatever else they're doing? How's he doing that? So I remember practicing that, and that's when I started getting back into the acoustic. Okay? It was amazing. Because now I'm studying Joe Satriani, Yngwie Malmsteen, and Randy Rhoads. I kind of gave up on Richie Sambora, CC, and all these others. It didn't seem like it would be working. But sometimes I pick up things even from Randy Rhoads. Crazy Train, or this D with the classical. Now I'm learning how to play with my fingers this way. I like that. That was cool. That was cool. If I could do that, I don't have to sing. I don't have to sing if I'm doing stuff like that in front of my friends and stuff. So therefore, they will never know if I can master this. I can't remember what else was that I started getting involved in there, but Randy Rhoads was a big reason why I wanted to start learning to play with my fingers on the acoustic guitar. And even when I got albums, it seemed that I would always be interested more, not in necessarily the hits, but songs that seemed to be more bare. You know what I mean by bare? Maybe it was just in that situation with D, it was just the acoustic guitar playing. That's it. You know, Bon Jovi, Ride, Cowboy, Ride. What was it? White Line, When the Children Cry. Oh, let me tell you something. I worked on that for hours and hours, and believe it or not, I actually perfected that song. I couldn't believe it, and I would play it for everyone. Everyone, and you didn't have to sing it. White Line, When the Children Cry, so much that even my nephew, as he was getting older, would say, teach me how to play that song. It's pretty amazing when that happens in your life. Wow, you can play When the Children Cry, yep. Now I got friends. I'm excited. I just impressed my girlfriend. And my girlfriend's proud to have me around now because I can play White Line. Couldn't play any of the other White Line songs. Amazing guitar player. Amazing guitar player. Tesla was another one that was so hard. I learned how to play Love Song. Just the intro. That's it. That's all I needed though. Because if you play that intro to Love Song, everybody's in awe. Wow. Now understand, a lot of these songs I started learning through the tablature. Not only am I trying to listen, but now I'm starting to go back into the tablature. Always very frustrating for me. Always. But the push of it all was because I wanted to be able to have people go, wow, and become my friend. That was the reason. Let me see. So now we're getting up in the 17s. I remember Warrant was really big. And let me tell you something. When I heard that song, I Saw Red, that brought me down to my knees. Even to this day when I listen to the words. That's the way I looked in my girlfriend's eyes, you know. It wasn't, understand, I was with her for some wrong reasons. I didn't care much for the intimacy, but the friendship. She was the most precious angel in the whole world to me. I really, really, really loved this girl. So whenever we would have our seasons of breaking up, splitting up, and getting back together, our first apartment that we had, I remember when I was leaving, I was homeless. I ended up being homeless for a season in my car and sleeping in buildings, local buildings and stuff, because I just couldn't get my life together, and I was tired of running back home to my mom. And can I tell you, I remember sitting out in our stone driveway one night, wanting to go in to talk to her, and I listened to that cassette with that song, and I learned how to play I Saw Red. Now understand, it didn't sound nothing like the album. I can reflect back and tell you many, many different times. I'm struggling. In my times of great pain, I was doing it. And then I was doing it really for the right reasons. It was very therapeutic for me. Very therapeutic. I would always reflect back on my life, trying to figure things out, and that's why I would get lost and just keep playing and forget everything. Forget everything. Okay? That's the way I felt. Forget everything. I kept on hiding that guitar, or getting rid of it. I remember giving her brother, that girl I was dating, I remember giving her brother a guitar. Covered with about 3 inches of Aquanet hairspray. Because the girl at the time that I was dating, she did her hair. And I'd sit there and I'd play while she was doing her hair. Always playing, always playing. One thing about me, no matter what was going on in life, no matter where I was playing my guitar. And I gotta be honest, it felt good when I didn't have to do it in the bedroom anymore. But I could just bring it out in a social gathering and do it. It's very relaxing to me. But I never played a song the whole way through, very rarely. I even stumbled with Every Rose Has Its Thorn. You know? I mean, that's pretty much a 2-chord song, right? For anybody who plays. And the ending, you had to get that perfect. Because I guarantee you, if you played that whole song and you didn't have that ending, people said you didn't play it right. You're not playing it right, give me the guitar. It's amazing how crazy people will get. They want details, they want details. They want what they heard on television, on the radio. The reason why I'm stressing all this is because you're going to find out. I'm getting ready to run out a little bit of memory here on my camera. I got to switch it over here soon. You'll find out in later years that this carried into my music career. It's a very disturbing process for me that I haven't figured out. Remember, I think differently than a lot of people, and maybe somebody can figure something out in 5 minutes. For me, I might walk around for years trying to figure it out. I don't know why. Maybe sometimes people would tell me, and I still don't get it, right? So I carried this into my music career. Because there's only 1 minute left on here, I'm going to switch it over and get talking back to you. We're going to move further up into my 20s. Bouncy ball moments, probably, back and forth. That's okay.